Everybody's always looking for a creative way to start a video. I'll bet you haven't seen too many that start like this one. Welcome back to the channel, folks. I'll be out from underneath this truck in just a minute. Today is oil change day, and I thought might be a good time to do a 3-year review on the 22 F350 with the 7.3 Godzilla. Kind of go over, my experience with the truck, what we like, what we don't like, and the big topic everybody wants to know is, do we regret buying a gas truck and going away from a diesel? I really have no complaints. I can't complain about this engine package. A lot of people don't like the 10-speed. Knock on wood, I haven't had any trouble. I hate the fact I just said that because you know what happens. But so yeah, like I say, I really can't complain. The truck only has a 373 gear. The camper's like 12,000 pounds, so I am well underneath what this truck is rated to tow with a 373. That's been a hot topic on a lot of my videos. I've had a lot of comments back and forth. A lot of guys out there, they just love that 430 and they think it's the greatest thing in the world. And, it might be. I've got a 373 and I'm happy. So I'm not going to get into that debate today. But if you want to see more on that, you can, go back and watch some of the other videos. We've talked about that pretty extensively. But still running the stock tires. Probably looking at new tires next year, I'm guessing. So I guess if I was going to complain about something, I'm not impressed with the stock Goodyears that came on it. They're okay, but nothing special. Love the interior, love all the creature comforts. The only thing I've really done to the truck to modify anything other than add lighting or the upfitter switch that I tied in for my front lockout hubs to disable those. And I'll explain that just a little bit. And then if you want to watch that, I'll put a link up here in the corner to that video. But what I did is I added a relay under the hood that is powered by one of my outfitter switches, and that relay opens and closes the circuit that goes to the vacuum solenoid, which enables your vacuum to turn on or off to your front hubs. So I can put the truck in 4-wheel low and flip that switch and unlock my front hubs, and now I have 2-wheel drive low range. I go into that more in depth in that other video I talked about, so I'm not going to go much further than that. But if you're interested in that, check out that video. The gas mileage is what it is. I mean, I've seen 15, I've seen 12. Towing is like 7, 8 with my trailer. I can do a little better if I slow way down, but usually we just want to get there and we run with traffic. So, but getting back to comparing the 7.3 gas to my previous truck, which was a 2004 Ram with a Cummins diesel, the 5.9, not that big a difference. Really not that big a difference in how this truck tows compared to that older diesel. Now, again, I say older diesel. That was an 04. If you are like 90% of us that jumped on the diesel bandwagon back in the early 2000s, and you are coming from one of those low power diesels, the 6.0 Ford, the 5.9 Cummins, the early Duramax, all those were relatively low power diesels. They all got pretty decent mileage and, they towed quite well. But then we started cranking up the horsepower on the diesels, and we started going with all the emissions and all of that stuff that comes along with it. That adds cost to the engine. It adds maintenance to the engine. Obviously, the DEF fluid you get into. The power, when you compare a 2004 Cummins to, even the Cummins today or the Duramax or the Power Stroke today, night and day. They're two completely different animals. The horsepower that you get out of these new diesels is insane compared to what we got in the early 2000s. So I'm not comparing, excuse me, I'm not comparing the 7.3 to a 6.7 or the new Duramax or the new Cummins. You can't. It's not even in the same class, okay? What I will tell you is this 7.3 is more than capable of doing the tasks most of us ask our truck to do. Most of us are weekend warriors, even contractors that are, daily driving these trucks that are pulling around equipment trailers and stuff like that, that don't want the expense of a diesel. The 7.3 is great for that. Those contractors that are always pulling, yeah, they should get the 430 gear without a doubt. They're working the crap out of these things all the time, and they would benefit from that. Or maybe if you're going to go full-time RV, you might want that 430, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of mountains. That's not to say you can't tow in the mountains with the 373 gear. You can. You're just going to do it in a lower gear, provided you're within the weight range that your truck is rated for with that gear. That's a biggie. As long as you're within what Ford says you're rated to tow. But again, we're not going to go down the gear ratio rabbit hole. So getting back to just towing with this compared to my Dodge, like I said, I can't really see that big of a difference. In fact, I think this truck actually feels quicker getting off the line. The Dodge also had a 373, but it was a 4-speed transmission. This 10-speed first and second gears are lower than first gear was in the Dodge, and I've said that in previous videos. So you've got a couple gears lower, you've got several gears higher, and a lot in between. So I love the ability with the push button to be able to select gears, to lock out gears. Very happy with the truck from the standpoint of towing with it. Okay. Again, I don't daily drive it a lot, but when I do, it's comfortable. The 373 is nice if you're going to use it to drive back and forth. Like for me, it's like a 30-minute drive to work, mostly expressway. It's nice to be able to tool along doing 70, 75 and not even see 2,000 RPMs. And the truck is just, putting down the road basically. So I did change spark plug wires on the truck very early on because it had, I forget what the B wires, and I went to the C wires, I think was the deal. But we haven't, again, knock on wood, we haven't experienced any problems with spark plug wires burning up or anything like that. So yeah, the cab is very quiet. That's another thing, comparing this to the diesel, especially the older diesels, they were louder. When you're in a campground and you're backing your camper up, it is so nice to be able to roll the windows down on the truck and not have to go, what? I can't hear you over the diesel engine. My wife likes the fact that we don't have to scream at each other to hear one another when we're, back in a camper and she's, giving me directions and whatnot. So, yeah, like I said, there's really not much more I can say. I have very few complaints. There are very little minor things. The oil filler cap under the hood is tiny. I'm not a big fan of that, but there's no dipstick there for the transmission. So I haven't serviced mine yet, but I'm coming up on that mileage. I would like to be able to do that myself and have a dipstick to check it and to add fluid, but it doesn't. So we'll be doing what we have to do. I love the electronic locking differential that came on this truck with the FX4 package. A lot of times I'm backing in or out of the edge of a field when I'm hunting and I spin one tire a little bit. Just locking the differential 90% of the times gets me out of that spot, and I don't even need four-wheel drive. It's nice to see a lot of the aluminum bodies out there on the F-150s that, those have been out now for like 10 years. I think 2015 was the first year of that aluminum body, and those trucks still look great. They're not corroding. Obviously, they're not rusting, at least the body panels. So that's a huge plus on these trucks, to be able to know 10 years down the road, I'm not going to be looking at rust holes in my truck that's got, 80, 90,000 miles on it. Now, for those of you that have been following my videos, you probably know I had 2 of the Blackstone oil analysis done. So I did switch over on my last oil change to Mobil 1 full synthetic. Still running the 5W30. I typically was running 4,000 to 5,000 miles on an oil change probably pushing a little harder towards closer to the 5,000 mile interval with the semi-synthetic recommended by the factory. And the Blackstone results both showed that I might want to change it a little earlier. So we've got just shy of 4,000 on this one. I know the full synthetic says it protects up to 20,000 miles, but oil's cheap compared to an engine, and I'm not interested in trying to get 20,000 miles out of an oil change. And I run the Mobil One oil filter as well, and it does help to have a nice long funnel to get your oil in, because like I say, that hole's really small. What I do is I take this flexible funnel and I kind of wedge it behind these two lines here. Makes life relatively simple. As far as the body goes, I'm taking care of the body on the truck. I have not waxed it. What I did was I put a product on it called Nano Coat. It's made by 303. And I think I have done that twice, maybe 3 times. Water still beads up on the truck really well. That stuff, you can put it on the plastic, and it shines the plastic up really nice too. Water will bead on your plastic, and then you don't wind up with all that white, wax residue on anything plastic. So it's towed our fifth wheel 3,000 miles. I keep pretty good track of the miles that we tow every year on the camper. I always record those so I know how many miles are on my tires and my wheel bearings since I packed them, things like that. So we're at 21,000, just shy of 21,300 on the truck, and 3,000 of those are towing the fifth wheel. It's done other towing, but nowhere near that heavy. It's smaller stuff that you could really tow with a half-ton truck, boats and the flatbed. So most of it's, being driven without a trailer behind it, just for reference sake. But again, that's why I'm not running a 430 gear either, because the truck doesn't live with a trailer behind it. It is driven occasionally as a daily driver. It is driven back and forth to work. I've driven it to the UP. I've driven it to the Gaylord area. Both of those were for hunting purposes, and it was just me in the truck. It's been to Canada once for a fishing trip. So, it's had some, road trip miles on it with nothing behind it. So I do tend to wait on new vehicles. When a new model or a new engine or transmission, something like that comes out, I do tend to wait about 3 years. So the fact that we bought a 22 was definitely a calculated decision. I'm hopeful that we dodged all of the early failure bullets with the 7.3. Like I said, we haven't had any trouble with it. I have been monitoring the oil. I've done 2 samples, and I'll probably do another one here next year. Not that that analysis is going to necessarily do anything for you other than give you a warning that something might be failing. But I don't know. There have been some lifter and cam failures out there. It's not a widespread problem by any stretch, but there have been a few, and that is a little bit concerning. So we bought an extended warranty that takes me out to 8 years or 85,000 miles. So we'll be coming up on the 4th year of that. So we'll hit 8 years probably before we hit the 85,000 miles. So hopefully that's a non-issue, but I've got a baseline established, and I will be curious to see what changes now with the Mobil One full synthetic and how that oil compares after being run, 4,000 miles compared to what the semi-synthetic was being run. About the same mileage there, how that looks. So like I say, I really don't have complaints, so it's kind of a boring video for you, I guess. I think the 7.3 is a great alternative to the diesel if you're not towing all the time towing huge heavy weights or towing, you know, probably the two things that I would say in my mind, in my own personal opinion, and that's all it is. So, all you diesel fans, just settle down. But my personal opinion, nobody needs a diesel unless they're towing one weight that warrants it. More weight than what the 7.3 can handle realistically. Or two, you're full-time RVing. Full-time RVing, you're doing nothing but working that truck more than likely. And the money that you have spent in the diesel engine, you're going to make that up in fuel savings. You are going to get a little better mileage towing with the diesel, and over a number of years and the miles you tow, if you're full-time RV, it will eventually pay for itself. It's going to take a minute, but you'll get there. Probably driving, towing through the mountains might be a third reason. If you were regularly towing through the mountains, and that's just because of the turbo going up the hills. It's not even the diesel as much as it's the turbo. And then obviously with that you gain the exhaust brake. They call it an engine brake on the 7.3, but you're just downshifting. However, the 7.3 does a really good job at holding you back coming down hills for a gas engine. So, but those would probably be, in my opinion, the only reasons that I could justify a diesel engine anymore. I don't think diesels are ever going to get simpler. I think they're only going to get more complicated. So to me, this was a great way to go. The 7.3 is a huge win for us for what we do with a truck. Again, it enabled me to get a higher trim level and stay within that same price range as I would have been with a diesel at a lower trim level. So overall, again, no complaints. Love the 7.3, love the power. The drivability is okay. The 10-speed takes a little getting used to, but once it learns your driving patterns, it's really okay. And we're not running a pedal monster or any of those programmers. The truck hasn't been tuned. This truck is bone stock. Other than I put a 2-wheel drive air dam on it because I didn't like the great big snowplow. So if you're truck shopping and you're on the fence still trying to decide whether you want one of these 7.3s or not, I hope the video was helpful to you. Hope it helped you make an educated decision based on somebody else's opinion and experience with the truck. So we'll let you go for now. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.